This chapter will probably feel a little different from the previous topics we've covered so far in the course, probably because it is. So, we're going to talk about terrorist communication and how that fits into campaigns. Well, why terrorism? Well, one reason that it's in this book is that the book's author writes about terrorism. It's one of his research areas. Matusitz has published over 170 articles, a lot of which is about terrorism and terrorist communication and organizations. Some of his research has been cited in a United States Supreme Court case. So this is one of his areas, so it's no surprise that it made it into the book. But also, what we're seeing is campaign theory in practice being used instead for the pro-social. It's being used for hate and violence. And so really what we're seeing in terrorism is we're seeing politically motivated violence in order to affect the change in people, right? You're trying to convince someone, a lot of people, to believe what you think in order to affect change in people's behavior. I mean, they are in fact producing social change. So at the end of the day, terrorist organizations methods may be different what we think of like a nonprofit trying to feed children. They're very different in their end result, but the processes that they use trying to change how people think, feel, and behave in order to fit a vision they have for the world around them, they are fundamentally the same thing. So we're going to talk about a couple of the important terms that are around this. And one of them is violent extremism. And this is essentially when you have a group of people who will ideologically be motivated for violence to accomplish their goals, particularly their political goals. So these are people who believe in their vision for the world to the point at which they will commit violent acts in order to make it succeed. So I think you should change and do these behaviors. You're not doing it, then I'll physically harm you until you do that. And so they will use propaganda, fundraising, and use it for recruitment purposes. So look how dedicated we are. We go out and we commit violence against people who disagree with us. It's a way to generate funds. Look, we're making things happen, and it's a way to recruit people, get on board or you're going down. Another thing that terrorist organizations will use is radicalization, and this is where this really feels like a campaign pushed to extreme, at least in the way we talked about it so far. So we're using persuasion to push people into extreme beliefs. And everything that we've talked about, all of framing, message delivery, audience segmentation, and that's exactly what you're doing. You're identifying these susceptible people in order to convince them not only to believe what you are selling, but you are bringing them on board to the point where it is an extreme belief that would otherwise be kind of difficult to accept. Now, there are lots of ways that we can think about this playing out, and it's obviously for typically towards violence, but one of the ways that we actually saw this play out was in the efforts to abolish slavery. So radicalization is an extreme belief, and that the extremity of that belief that that particular group is pushing is going to depend on what is the prevailing thought of the day. So one of the other things that a terrorist campaign will seek to accomplish is indoctrination. We are going beyond the radicalization. So yes, there are these extreme ideas. You kind of buy into it, you're supporting it, you're willing to commit violence on its behalf. But the part that makes it particularly dangerous is the indoctrination that occurs, that you are inculcating ideas, attitudes, beliefs, or cognitive approaches that are so deeply held that it is difficult to resist being re-educated. You will not listen to alternative viewpoints. So that is not obviously not something that we see in typical pro-social campaigns. Hey, I really want you to go do this thing. I really think you should, eat healthy or stop smoking or, be nice to people. Oh, you're not? Okay, well, we'll try again another time. But once you find someone who is like you don't find like someone who's maliciously happy, who will not hear a word otherwise. That's not how it works. So the fact that someone will resist alternative messaging and be unwilling to be different is one of the ways that makes terrorist communication very different. So are they really that different? Well, if we think about terrorists versus traditional campaigns, what do? Well, they have desired outcomes they seek to accomplish, right? They have a vision of the world and they are pushing for it. They will do it in a certain way. They are using messages. They are targeting people. They have a particular vision. There are action items that they provide, and they accomplish their goals through a change of beliefs, attitudes, and behaviors within a specific period of time. Right? There is a start and a kind of desired end goal that, if it's not happening, we kind of give up, right? People are buying in, it builds momentum. The difference here is that terrorism weaponizes the language that we tend to use, whereas a typical campaign does not. So, we don't point to someone who's eating unhealthy and that's the new swear word of the day. Like, how could you even think of that, right? That's not what happens in a traditional campaign. So terrorist communication is a little bit different, but at the heart of it, it's the same. It's just the ends to which we seek to accomplish it. So what I really think this chapter does a couple of things. One is that it provides a couple of case studies that I think are useful to look at to see how some of these tools are used. And two, that it shows you that these tools that we're talking about with campaigns can be incredibly successful. But it's a matter of what is it you seek to accomplish? What are the aims that you have? As with any tool, a tool can be used for good and it can be used for bad. A hammer is really good at hammering in a nail, but it can also be a pretty, deadly weapon if used inappropriately. Just like any other language tools that we have available to us, our persuasive abilities can be used for good or they can be used for evil.